He chuckled loud enough for the entire range to hear, folding his arms as if sealing the moment into history. "You want to what, ma'am?" the colonel said, loud and slow, like she didn't speak English. "This isn't a carnival game. This is real steel." She didn't flinch. The woman standing in front of him looked plain by most definitions. Canvas jacket, worn jeans, and weathered boots that had crossed more mud than marble. She carried no badge, no rank, no medals. Just a folded letter in her back pocket and a stillness in her eyes that unnerved the few who dared hold her gaze. A few of the younger soldiers snickered behind the colonel. A clipboard officer raised an eyebrow, silently observing. Others looked away, the kind of silence that protects power, not justice. She hadn't come to prove anything. But now, she had no choice. Her name was Claire Mallory, a florist by trade, a widow by fate. 10 years ago, she buried her husband, Staff Sergeant Daniel Mallory, after his Humvee exploded on a routine convoy. He'd always said she had a sharper eye than half his squad. He used to bring her back casings from the range, brass medals of his devotion. Claire never remarried. She raised 2 boys in a creaky house on the edge of Ridgewater, running a flower shop nobody noticed. Unless they were grieving. The town called her quiet, simple. But none of them saw her at 2 a.m., kneeling beside a flag-draped box, whispering prayers no one would hear. Last month, a letter arrived. Daniel's unit was honoring Gold Star families with a firing range memorial. Claire asked for one request, to fire the same rifle her husband trained with. She wanted to feel, for just 1 second, what his hands once gripped. And the colonel laughed in her face. "You think this is some sort of tribute show?" The colonel said, his voice sharp, mocking. "We have rules, lady." Claire said nothing. She looked down at her boots, then slowly up at the range. Her hands trembled, but not with fear. The kind of tremble you feel before stepping into a storm you've walked toward your whole life. The colonel was still smirking when a quiet voice emerged from the back. "Let her try." It was Sergeant Brooks, 30 years in uniform, silver in his beard, and more scars than stories. He'd served with Daniel. His words still carried weight. Slowly, others began stepping forward, former teammates, junior officers, even a few visiting Marines. Not one of them spoke loud, but their steps were louder than words. That a rifle was brought forward, not the exact one, but the same model. Claire didn't blink. She took it, checked the chamber with surprising fluidity, then walked to the lane. She took one breath, then pulled the trigger. The first shot split the center of the target. The second, same hole. By the third, the snickering had stopped. By the fifth, the colonel wasn't smiling anymore. Her grouping was tighter than most of the soldiers who came before her. Not flashy, not fast, but perfect, steady, controlled. When she turned, no one clapped. They stood, silent, as if watching something holy. Later, as Claire packed her things, the colonel approached, no longer puffed up with pride. He offered a slow nod. Nothing more. She paused and looked at him. "My husband once said, honor doesn't shout. It whispers when no one's listening." She walked away before he could answer. The range never forgot that day. A plaque now sits on the far wall, etched with a quote from Claire Mallory. "Some battles are fought in silence. But silence doesn't mean surrender. If you believe in the quiet strength of those who carry the heaviest burdens, tell us where you're watching from. Leave a comment for every silent hero you've known. And subscribe for more stories that remind the world some heroes don't need a uniform, just a reason.